Hello, Chesney writes. Magnus Carlsen has just won his fifth World Rapid Championship title. This is his 16th World Championship in all the formats. An absolutely amazing achievement. He remained unbeaten in all the 13 rounds on his way to the victory. In this video, we'll be looking at some of his amazing wins that got him the championship. So let's get started with the first position. This is his game against Petrosyan from Armenia. Carlsen has white pieces here. So he's down a pawn, but he has double bishop advantage. Black has some pressure on Carlsen's king side because the queen is on h5, the pawn is on f3. But Carlsen is holding the king side. It's a bit weaker. There is some pressure, but it's not like immediately something is happening. So what Carlsen did in this position is that he tried to create the counterplay on the other side, that is the queen side. So he already has some space advantage there because the pawn is on d5 and his pieces are already a bit focused there. So now let's look at how instructively he created the counterplay queen side. So he started with the move queen a6. So he's improving the queen's position and attacking this d8 d6 pawn. So after rook a d8, so in this position it seems like black has just now given up this pawn. So capturing this pawn is not the best idea because then black can play rook a8 and then there can be this rook takes a2 and that rook is getting active. So Carlsen did not want black's pieces to get active. So after queen a6, rook a d8, he did not go after the pawn. He played rook b1, bringing the rook on the open file, improving the pieces. It's time to put pressure on the queen side. Then his opponent played g4. He wants to do something on the king side. Of course, our king is there, so we have to be safe. So Carlsen played h4. He wants to keep his king side safe. He doesn't want to take any risk. So then queen g6 was played by black. So he's attacking this e4 pawn. Carlsen doesn't get distracted from his objective of putting pressure on the queen side. So improved the bishop's position with a tempo. The rook is being attacked. After rook d7, once again the relentless pressure continues. Bishop b5, improving another bishop's position and attacking that rook. So then black moved the rook to f7, and then Carlsen won this d6 pawn. And then this pawn is weak. This pawn is weak. By the way, black cannot capture this pawn because that queen would go. And then after some moves, Carlsen won the game. So the main theme of this was how he's recognized that black has some chances on his king side, but they are a bit too slow. So he shifted all his attention to the queen side. He brought the queen. He brought the rook. He brought this bishop. He brought this bishop. And through relentless pressure, black's position just fell apart. So let's go for the next instructive game of his. So this is his game that he was playing against Timur Gariev from United States. So Carlsen has white pieces here. So the material is equal, and black has the double bishop advantage. But there are a few problems in black's position. Number one, they have not completed the development because the bishop is on c8, and because the pawns have been pushed to g4 and h5, that makes black's king weak. So what Carlsen should do was to put pressure on that weak king, and as part of that plan, he played f4. So to weaken that king, to do something against that king, of course, it's very important to activate our pieces and to open the position, to open the files, to open the diagonals. So his first idea is to try to open this file so that the rook can get active. Maybe that pressure can be put on this f7 pawn. Of course, the pressure will be there on the queen, but the queen will move, so pressure can be put on the f7 pawn on the king side. So that's the beginning of his plan to put pressure on black's weak king. So black decided to go for the en passant and play g takes f3. Carlsen played knight takes f3. He wants to bring the knight on the king side at one more piece. Now this is he's controlling the semi-open file, so later he can do something. Uh, Black completed his development, so brought the bishop to g4. So Carlsen removed the queen from the pin. He didn't want to take any chances, and Carlsen's plan is to play h3 next. So Queen g2's plan was not just to remove the queen from the pin, but it was also to play h3 and kick this bishop. So then um, Kariyev played Queen e6, trying to play Queen takes a2 and Bishop h3. But Carlsen played Bishop b3, improving the bishop's position with a tempo. Why improving? Because now the bishop will also focus on the king side, and that creates serious problems for black. So, and now the queen is overloaded. Why? Because the queen needs to defend this pawn, and queen needs to cover h3. So that e6 was the square where it was doing both of the things, but now it can't do both. So because of that reason, Gariev decided that okay, let me try to defend this pawn, and then I'll play queen e7. So this piece is active, and Carlsen played queen g2 earlier to play h3. So once the queen moves, Carlsen played h3. It's time to remove that bishop, that active piece of black. Carlsen doesn't want to keep it there. So then bishop e6 was played. So now the knight is not pinned anymore. It's time to improve the knight's position. Knight is going to h4. So knight can go to f5 next in some cases. And then it will create, once again, relentless pressure on the queen side. On the king side, because black's king is weak. Then black played bishop e3 check. It's just time to safeguard the king. Black brought the queen. Carlsen continued with his plan. Let's improve the knight. Then it's time to target that queen. Then Kariyev played queen f6. So discovery is there, but white's not able to do much. So he just continued attacking the weaknesses. So queen takes h5 is the threat. So black defended it by playing queen h8. So the position is not looking that great for black. So now Carlsen went for this pawn break. So he wants to open the position to weaken that king. And then Kariyev played queen h7. So his idea was if white takes this, then maybe he can play king h8, rook g8, and then try something. And white has to be a bit careful because white's king is also on the king side. So what Carlsen did, he played g5 in this position. So the idea is to now bring the knight there so that he can take this pawn and then make black's king side even weaker. And then king h8 was played, but he played knight h6. Now, if black plays something like queen g6, then there is rook f6, and this is just too bad. And after that, f6, queen takes h5, and yeah, black lost the game after some point. The third game of Carlsen is against strong grandmaster Fedoshev. So Carlsen has black pieces here. White has the double bishop advantage, but the position is more on the close side. The center is closed. This bishop is being restricted by these pawns. This bishop is, to an extent, being restricted by their own pawns. So those double bishops are not the most important in this position. So white has this nice battery of bishop and queen, but this rook is on b2, so not much can be done. But black's position is more pleasant. So how to continue? So in this position, Carlsen recognized that one of his least active pieces is the rook on a6 because it's not doing much. So he brought it on a8. What's the plan? The plan is to bring it to g8, bring it on the open file, and then create pressure. So let's say if black plays queen d1, wants to if white plays queen d1, he wants to shift the queen here. Not a problem. We can defend this, and then rook b8. Now then the question is that the rook cannot come to g8. So what's the plan? But see, rook is on b8 because the queen is on b3. It's attacking this. As long as the queen remains on b3, now the plan of black will be to try to play queen g7 and then try to play queen g2 or queen g1 and put pressure. So, and if the queen decides to go back on the king side, then the queen, then the rook can also join in. So Fedoshev in this position played f4. So Fedoshev has double bishops. So wants to exchange the pawns so that the bishops can get active. After he takes f4, bishop takes f4. Suddenly that bishop is active. That can create some problems. So what Carlsen did, he played rook g8. First of all, he improved the rook's position with a tempo. Fedosey played queen h2. Now it's very important to not to let white's pieces get active. So Carlsen played e4. Now e4 blocks the bishop and the queen as well. But the thing is, as long as that rook was on b2, we were not able to do that much on this diagonal. So Carlsen decided to close it, because the important thing here is it's not about closing this diagonal, but it's about not allowing the bishop to get to f4. That would create bigger problems. So then in this position, rook b1 was played. So Carlsen played queen d7 in this position. What's the plan? Targeting the weakness on the queen side, playing on both sides of the board. Bishop d1. So the bishop is doing a good job of defending this as well. So Carlsen decided it's time to exchange that bishop. So then it will be difficult for white to defend all the weaknesses on the queen side or king side. Something is going to fall. So then Fedosey decided, okay, I'll just play bishop c2. So and then Carlsen improved the queen's position. So now there are three attackers here and just one defender. And then he won the pawn here, and he's having clearly better position. Later he went on to win the game. So the most important part of this game was recognizing that this rook is not doing much, bringing it back to a8 and then bringing it on the open file, and keeping the position close, not allowing that bishop to get active, and focusing on the weaknesses on the other side as well, not just the king side. Queen side has weaknesses as well. Queen d7, and then bishop g4 was played, and the material fell for Fedosey. Now let's look at the final example. So Carlsen is white, and he's playing against Iranian Grandmaster Irani Poya. So here it looks like a very simple move. What is this? Let's just take the pawn and then think later. Not so much. We have to be careful. So in this position, because if we allow our opponent to get some activity, then one pawn might not be enough in the rook endgame to win. And in fact, rook takes d5 is a mistake. Black by activating the king is able to get about equal position. So let's say after this, if white decides to bring the king, then there is king e6 attacking the rook. Of course, the rook has to try to remain on this rank to defend the pawn, but then black can continuously act this. Then rook c6 check. Not a problem. King d7. Once again, this pawn is under threat. If white comes back here, black will just go to d6. If white attacks this pawn, black has no need to give this pawn. Play king e7, defend this pawn, attack the rook, and then this pawn will fall and the position is equal. After rook takes d5, let's say if white decides to play f4, then after king e6, maybe rook e5 check, keep that extra pawn. But it's very difficult for white to keep it. Now, black's plan is to play f6, and then rook will have nowhere to go on this rank, and this pawn will be captured. So white can play g5. But then in this position, black has this very nice pawn sacrifice idea of f5. So after rook takes g6, just king f7, and then he will capture this pawn. So after that, white will remain up a pawn, but it's two pawn versus one pawn, and both so both of those pawns gets blocked by this pawn. So it will be not so difficult for Irani to draw this game. So that's why it's very important to not be greedy all the time. We have to be careful about our opponent's activity as well. Carlsen was, of course, he's a wizard in the endgame. So he did not capture the pawn. He activated his king. He played king f2. He's like, okay, I can take that pawn at any moment I want. Let me activate my king. And now if black plays king e7, he can play king e3. If king d6, then king d4. This pawn will fall. His king will be active, and black won't have much counterplay. So what black decided to play? He played rook 8 in this position. He wanted to activate his rook. Carlsen continues with his plan. Let's activate the king. Then black is attacking the pawn. So, but one of the drawbacks of the rook not being on the b file is that this advanced pass pawn can be pushed. So Carlsen continued with his king side, the king activity, captured this. Now the king is extremely active. Now Irani is trying to create a pass pawn of his own on the king side. But the biggest difference is that this pawn is a bit advanced, number one, and number two, the king is also there to support it, and Irani's king is a bit too far. b6. It's time to push it. Let's say if Irani had taken this, Carlsen can simply push, threatening to queen. If this, then the check, promote it, and once he captures, so he has this very simple plan, just king e4, bring the king back, and then just stop the queen, and then he can just do this. Rook versus, so this pawn will go and then these two pawns are just way too far to make any impact. So in this position, instead of capturing this pawn, so Irani played rook b2. Not a problem. Carlsen played king c6. He wants to push. And then he can play rook b5. So once the rook moves, then he will be able to promote. So h takes e4 was played by Irani. And he pushed the pawn. He is now threatening to play rook b5 so that he can promote. Or king c7 and then he can promote. Then rook b7 was played this, king e6. He wants to play f5 and then create a pass pawn. Carlsen played g5. This is just too much. His pawns are not advanced enough for to create any counterplay, and black resigned. So these were some of the instructive moments from Carlsen's way to the victory. So here, I want to take a moment to introduce chessneurons.com, a platform that I've created to improve your positional chess. So please visit chessneurons.com and start your 7-day free trial today. Thank you.